Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Coscia, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Well, we're into our 5th week now. This is week number 5, and we have a couple of stories from our people in our area that I'd like to share with you. The first story is a single parent, a mom, who was telling us that she was taking her children to a church meeting. It was an important church meeting she had planned on for a long time, and the children were looking forward to going. But they had a very hectic day, and so it was close to dinner time, and it was time for them to leave, and so she decided they were just going to have to be very late, and she was sorry about that, but she felt her responsibility was pretty strong, that she had to take care of her children and have dinner before they took off. And so she was a little sad about that, and as she was getting ready to start dinner, there was a knock on the door, and it turned out that her neighbor had purchased more pizza than they needed for a party they were having next door, and just happened to have the excess and got inspired to come by, knock on her door, and offer her a full pizza. So that solved the problem, and I share it with you because it's a coincidence, perfectly timed, indicating someone whose heart was devoted and dedicated to attend church services, was assisted by God to be on time because the supper was ready, and I think they even took the pizza with them in the car as they were driving over. The next story is somewhat similar, pretty amazing. Got both stories on the same day, actually. And it's another single parent, but this time it's a man, and he also had 2 children. And he had planned a weekend event for his children. Being a single dad and working, it was difficult for him to do a lot of things, but he had planned on this great weekend plan, but unfortunately they had some expenses happen during that week, and he couldn't afford to do it, so he was sad about that, frustrated. And this was on a Friday night, I guess, where he was frustrated about it because he really wanted to do that. He was trying to figure out how to tell the children on Saturday they weren't going to be able to do this thing they planned to do. But he had a chore. He was cutting someone's grass late Friday, and in the process of that, while he was cutting their grass, and still reflecting on this problem that he was sad about, It turns out that while he was cutting the grass, he got to a place on the lawn where he noticed $20 bills just laying there that apparently got picked up by the wind and dropped there. And he found 5 $20 bills, and he took it as an answer to a prayer. He did check to see if it would belong to someone, in the area, but couldn't find anybody, so he just took it as a miracle. So I share these 2 coincidence miracles, both parents trying to love their children, trying to do what's right, troubled about the fact that they couldn't do what they were trying to do in something right. They both are people of prayer, and in both cases, coincidences happen perfectly on time. So I thought you'd be interested in hearing. Well, our next story is a pretty amazing story. It's called Walk It Off. Again, it's called Walk It Off. I remember growing up where our parents would tell us when we got frustrated as children, or we were anxious or troubled or mad or sad and moaning, our parents would say, take a walk, go outside and walk it off. And my parents at least told us that often when we were acting up. Later when I grew up, I heard people say, go walk it off. I naturally interpret that to mean something. When I saw people pacing the floor, when they're trying to ponder things, trying to make serious decisions, I put that all together as I was growing up, and to me it meant they're trying to decide something important. They go and take a walk, walk it off, try to ponder and meditate. So for many years now, I do that. I go off for walks when I'm praying to God about what to do and things to decide. I go for a walk, and it helps me very much. You get outside, you get some air, and you clear your head. So I've been doing that for many years. On one occasion recently, I was walking and talking with God after morning church services. Again, we don't preach religion and tell you what religions to be part of, etc., but for me in my life, it's very helpful to attend church services. And so after church services one morning, I was trying to make some decisions. Actually, I was making some decisions about writing a couple of things in the books I wrote. And I was walking and pacing in the foyer, the vestibule of the church, really enjoying the time alone with God. And it was a cold day, so that's why I was inside the church, inside the vestibule. And I noticed the organist was practicing that day, and I knew the organist pretty well, and they do come in and practice on occasion. They were practicing, and they were playing a beautiful piece of music. The sound of the music was so influencing my attitude and the ambience of the moment. I was really enjoying the music. And God inspired me, well, why don't you go upstairs and tell the organist how beautiful that piece is and how much you're enjoying it. And I said, gee, Lord, I know that she's practicing, and I know she's very busy, and she schedules these practices. I don't want to interrupt her, but, he encouraged me, it's the best, good thing, Tony. Go tell her how much you're enjoying it. So he convinced me. So I thought it was a good idea. So I climbed the narrow staircase all the way up to where the organ is in the loft of the church. And exactly as I got to the door, I could see through the glass in the window of the door that she had just finished playing the piece, and I saw her changing the pages in the book she was playing from. So I thought that was perfect timing, quite a coincidence miracle. I thought that I didn't want to disturb her, and indeed I was not, because she just finished the song. So we got a chance to talk, and we knew each other, so I told her how wonderful it was that I was walking downstairs. I was walking off one of my problems, and I was meditating, and I told her I typically do these things, and I walk it off. When I said that, I said to her, I walk it off, and she chuckled and smiled, and I couldn't imagine why she was really impacted by that statement. And she said, Tony, do you know what the name of the piece I was playing is? And I said, no, I really don't. I'm sorry. She was playing from some sheet music. And she said the title of the song, the music I was playing, is called Walk It Off. And it was composed by Johann Sebastian Bach. I said, what? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Are you serious? It's called Walk It Off? She says, yes, let me show you. So she got the sheet music and showed me. And it's called Walk It Off, but it's spelled in German lettering. I don't think it means walk it off, but let me spell it for you. It's spelled W-A-L-K-E-T. W-A-K-U-T. That's Wocket, and then there's a space, and then there's the letter U-F, 2 letters U-F, so it's Wocket Uff. And so she was laughing, and I'm telling you, what an amazing experience. So far, this is quite a coincidence miracle, right? I'm walking it off. My parents told me to go walk it off when I had problems. And I was meditating. Walking it off and talking to God is a big help to me. And God inspires me to go tell her about the music because that's what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to know that she was playing music called Walk It Off. And as we finished talking, and I was walking away, she's busy, I didn't want to hold her up too long, so I was walking away, and she said, "Oh, Tony, by the way, I should tell you, I was born and raised in a town in Iowa, and it's called Walk On." Now, is that a double coincidence miracle or not? There's a woman who was born and raised in a town in Iowa called Walk On. It's spelled W-A-U-K-O-N, Walk On, Iowa. And she's playing Walk It Off music, and I'm walking it off. I mean, it almost sounds like a comedy, right? Well, like I said before in prior weeks, I could not even invent these stories. They're so unbelievable. But this is why I wrote books about coincidence miracles, because God has so impressed upon me that when he's nudging us and prompting us, he really makes it clear to us that he's involved. So he knew she'd be playing that piece that day. He knew I would be walking in the vestibule that day. He knew she was from Iowa, a town called Walk On. Unbelievable. So that's why I keep telling everybody, pay attention. When you see a coincidence, pay attention, reflect on it. And I think I should give a little recap again of what happened. I'm walking in the church to walk it off. God gets me to go upstairs to tell her I'm happy with the music. She tells me she's playing Walk It Off, spelled, in German letter as Wackoff. And I interrupted her precisely at the right time when she finished with that song, so I really did not interrupt her, which was one of my concerns. And as I'm walking away, she tells me that she was born and raised in a town called Walk On. So, all right, I hope you enjoyed that, because it's a true story, and it was a very enjoyable story. In one of our prior weeks, I asked everybody to remember the numbers 2, 5, and 7, because they're holy numbers with great meanings. And I said you could remember those numbers by remembering the word beg. That's B-E-G, beg, because B is the second letter of the alphabet, and E is the fifth letter, and G is the seventh letter, so beg reminds you of those 3 numbers. So when you see those numbers, 3 2s or 3 5s or 3 7s, it's usually a clue that God is doing something and trying to confirm something that you're thinking about, etc. So I want to tell you a quick story. One day I was driving home, and God inspired me to take a different road to get home instead of my usual road. And I said, okay. So I took that road, and right at the first intersection, a car came toward me, and its license plate number was the letters G, G, G. 3 G's, the letters G, like G for God, right? 3 times. Well, G is the 7th letter of the alphabet, like in the word beg. And so when I saw the 3 G's, I perceived it and saw it as his telling me with the 3 7s, that's why he sent me down that road. And very often that's the way you'll see things happen in your life. When you see numbers, he inspired you to go a certain way, and you see numbers, either the 2s, the 5s, or the 7s, or you might see the letters. You might see 3 letter B's, that's 3 2s, 3 letter E's, that's 3 5s. All right, so I hope you'll notice that in your life as well. Talk to you again next week. God bless you all.